Y News with Angelo Castro III, Gerry Alcantara, and Darlene Basingan.
Good evening. President Rodrigo Duterte hits the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and the Anti-Money Laundering Council anew. The president also orders the closure of all online gambling operations in the country. Grace Casin will tell us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte once again gave a stern warning against the officials of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP as well as the Anti-Money Laundering Council or AMLAC. This is in connection with the investigation of the Department of Justice to drug lords and government officials involved in illegal drugs operations.
Na hanggang ngayon, there's no report of this AMLAC. You know, I'm going to charge all of you there. Criminally. I'll count 1 to 3, and if you don't resign, I will treat you as a drug addict. You know, you're contributing to the corruption of this country. You have reported to the NBI and submitted it very late, yet you do not have the assessment report.
The president warned the BSP and AMLAC before to cooperate with the Department of Justice in providing information against illegal drug operation involved personalities. Meanwhile, President Duterte orders the closure of all online gambling operations. The president says the country does not benefit from this and corruption prevails over granting of gaming licenses, which amount to 300 billion pesos.
I am ordering the closure of all online gaming. Lahat. Walang silbi to.
The president made a statement when he led the signing ceremony of the 2017 national budget. According to Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre, the president assigns him to head a team that will investigate the Cagayan Economic Zone Authority or CEZA and the operation of online gambling in the country. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Just before the 5 o'clock deadline today, the 20 million peso alleged extortion money from Jack Lam was turned over to authorities. Mon Hocson will tell us why.
Wally Sombero carries a paper bag containing the 2 million pesos as he enters the office of the Ombudsman. The money is an additional evidence to prove the graft complaint against 2 former high-ranking officials of the Bureau of Immigration. The money was bound by a rubber band and wrapped in plastic with Chinese characters written on it. It is the proof that the 2 million peso bills really came from the casino along with the 50 million pesos that would have been given to Argusino and Robles after they demanded for it.
Ito yung actual na winidraw doon sa casino. So kumbaga, itong perang sinurrender na nakuhanan nyo ng picture doon sa mga interesado, ito yung magiging benchmark. Ito yung actual.
Sombero denies that the turnover is an admission that he received the 2 million pesos. Sombero says that Immigration Intel Kalima took the 18 million and 2 million pesos from him to strengthen the case against Argusino and Robles.
Putok na paano magiging admission yun? It's just strengthen the case. Monday pa lang alam na nilang may 2 million. Parang ginawa ni General Kalima, he tried to get the 18 million and may 2 million, 20 million to strengthen the case. It's a loop. Parang yung loop na nasarado.
Meanwhile, in his memorandum to Justice Secretary Vitaliano Aguirre, Immigration Commissioner Jaime Morente attests that former Acting Immigration Intelligence Chief, retired Police General Charles Kalima, has turned over the 18 million peso cut of the alleged extortion money to the CIDG. Aguirre already wrote CIDG Chief General Roel Obusan requesting the turnover of said money to the DOJ, together with the other documents and evidence submitted by Kalima for safekeeping. As expected, it will be used as evidence in the plunder case he filed against the 2 former BI associate commissioners. The secretary said it will be used in parallel probe being conducted by the NBI on the alleged extortion incident. Mon Hocson, UNTV News and Rescue, Office of the Ombudsman.
The Duterte administration has now secured its budget for next year. Rosalie Cos will tell us why.
I have said this before and I will reiterate it. The budget is useless if the Filipino is not at its center. This budget is a credible budget where every peso worth will be spent for the governments, for the gains of the Filipino people. Let us work together to utilize government budget for the empowerment of our citizens and for the realization of our hopes and aspirations for our country.
President Rodrigo Duterte signs into law the General Appropriations Act, or the national budget of his administration for 2017, which totals to 3.35 trillion pesos. The Department of Education got the biggest allocation, which is worth 544.1 billion pesos. Starting next year, students in public colleges will have free tuition because of the 57.72 billion peso fund allocated for state universities and colleges and 18.7 billion pesos for the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED. The government is expected to spend 850 billion pesos for infrastructure starting next year because of the 454.7 billion peso allocation for the Department of Public Works and Highways. Meanwhile, the Department of Transportation gets a budget worth 53.3 billion pesos next year. The Department of the Interior and Local Government will have 148 billion peso allocation, which will be used for the anti-drug war, construction of additional jail facilities, and allowance of prisoners. Meanwhile, the Department of National Defense will be able to continue the AFP modernization program for the country's territorial defense and security services using the allotted 137.2 billion peso fund. The Department of Social Welfare and Development will have 128.3 billion pesos allotment, a huge part of which will go to the conditional cash transfer program and monthly rice subsidy for indigent Filipinos. Moreover, it is a relief for farmers as they will no longer have to pay for irrigation because the government has allotted 38.4 billion pesos for the National Irrigation Authority.
Farmers no longer have to pay irrigation fees with the additional 2 billion allocated for the National Irrigation Administration. Mamito, taga na una tasakan nito. Bakit magbayad ang farmers ng tubig na kanilang walang may-ari? When you're supposed to build the canals and irrigation, I've been wondering all these years why they have to pay for the water. It's one of my election promises that I will do away with this thing. It's about 5,000 per on the average.
Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The National Irrigation Administration will implement a master plan that is expected to fast-track the construction of irrigation systems in the country. Ray Pelayo will tell us why.
A 10-year master plan is now being finalized by the National Irrigation Administration. It aims to reach the 75% of the 3.02 million hectares of irrigable areas. NIA have already irrigated around 57% or 1.7 million hectares of agri-land, but 400,000 of these are already old and damaged by natural phenomenon like typhoons. The program will be allotted 40 billion pesos per year, which puts the total cost of the project at 390 billion pesos. Different countries such as Japan and China will help in the realization of the program.
Yung ginagawa natin, restoration doon sa mga hindi na operable, rehab doon sa mga nasisira, at the same time opening new areas.
The agency prefers to build a smaller dam no bigger than Angat.
As much as possible, if ever we undertake any dam project, dapat the least environmental impact the least impact on our indigenous peoples.
Meanwhile, NIA is doing an internal review of their personnel to fill some positions. Lavinia said other engineers have transferred to other agencies due to salary issues.
Ang NIA, as a losing GOCC, mababa ang salary grade and standard ngayon. 2012 level pa. So nawawala sa amin yung mga ating mga engineers.
Ray Pilayo, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Some lawmakers are not satisfied with the Department of Labor and Employment's proposed order on ENDO or the end of contract scheme. Nel Maribuhok will tell us why.
Lawmakers will focus on proposed bills that aim to abolish contractualization or end-of-contract scheme in the labor sector. According to the party list group Akbayan, the draft order of the Department of Labor and Employment has no assurance of permanent employment and benefits for contractual workers.
Kasi even the subcontractor, even if sabihin niya na i-regularize possibly yung kanyang worker, pero dahil nga sa nature ng subcontract na palaging merong fixed na term yung contract, so mangyari dyan, kahit supposedly regular siya, ay wala pa rin siyang matatanggap na regular benefits. No?
Under the said Department Order Number 30, fixed-term employees or contractual workers will be given protection wherein after termination of contracts, the agency or principal employer will have to find new jobs for the workers within 3 months. Illegitimate contractors will also be abolished. On the other hand, according to Akbayan Representative Tom Villarin, they will focus on amending the provisions of the Labor Code. These include his proposed bill wherein an employer should have at least 80% regular employees in the manpower.
So in a given parang employer, at least minimum 80% ay regular. Yung 20%, yan yung pwedeng halimbawa, yung janitorial services. Yung mga serbisyo na di ba pwede namang parang yung nature niya hindi naman talaga direct and inherent sa isang negosyo.
The party list groups Bayan Muna and the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines have filed various versions of the proposed bill. The House Bill number 1208 that seeks to abolish completely the ENDO with corresponding penalties to those who will violate the law. Also, House Bill number 4444 that aims to regularize all employees excluding those under probationary period. The Labor Secretary Silvestre Rebello III already said that under the proposed department order is the most effective way to protect contractual workers. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Department of Labor and Employment, or DOLE, reports the current demand for skilled workers in the country's construction industry. Grace Casson will tell us why.
Despite several buildings under construction in Metro Manila, the Department of Labor and Employment says the country is still in shortage of skilled construction workers. DOLE data shows that the demand now in construction industry is about 200,000, but there are only 24,000 that may be available at any given time. To solve this, DOLE will provide nurses to Canada in exchange for their skilled construction workers to be brought into the country.
That is why iniisip natin na pauwiin ang ating mga OFWs na skilled in the construction industry dahil dito na ang nagkukulang.
But skilled worker Cesar Gachona is worried about competition once Canadian skilled workers enter the scene.
Pag pupunta rin ng taga-Canada, mawala na yung mga skill natin na medyo hindi ganong nakapag-aral. Mawala sila ng trabaho, paano naman yung pamilya nila?
Meanwhile, worker Galvasio asked DOLE to also consider construction workers for regularization.
Para sa pamilya namin, tapos may regular kaming kita, para hindi na kami hanap ng trabaho.
Yusek Sai explained that they cannot regularize construction workers because they are on a per-project basis only. But still, they will review the existing Department Order number 19 that focuses on the protection of construction workers.
In the construction industry, may mga phases lang ng trabaho. Halimbawa, bago ka magbuhos ng mga poste, ibabaon mo lang muna yung mga kable para sa kuryente. Pagkatapos gawin yan ng isang contractor for electrical works, aalis na yun eh. Tapos na ang trabaho niya.
Furthermore, Dole says they are now studying possible actions to protect construction workers in the country under the Labor Code. Grace Casin, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Sandiganbayan 5th Division grants a demurrer to evidence of Senator JV Ejercito and clears him of graft charges in connection with the firearms purchase deal. Ejercito's case stemmed from the alleged illegal diversion of 2.1 million pesos in calamity fund for the purchase of high-powered firearms when he was still the mayor of San Juan City. Ejercito allegedly gave unwarranted benefit to firearms distributor Daewoo. However, the Sandiganbayan found no evidence to prove that Senator Ejercito gave unwarranted benefit to the firearms distributor. The Sandiganbayan also lifted the whole departure order and suspension against Ejercito. The Armed Forces of the Philippines hopes that the members of the New People's Army will grab the opportunity provided by the government's ceasefire declaration. Brian De Paz will tell us why.
The Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, is hoping that the New People's Army will not disregard the ceasefire President Rodrigo Duterte declared so they could be with their loved ones living in cities. AFP Public Affairs Chief Marine Colonel Edgar Darevalo says members of the rebel group have nothing to fear for their safety.
Wala siyang pagkakaiba sapagkat sa ngayon existing pa rin naman yung ni-revive niya na unilateral ceasefire with the CPP, NPA, NDF. At ang ating nakikita sa deklarasyon niyang ito ay gusto lamang niyang bigyang diin ang kahalagahan ng inclusive period na ito.
Meanwhile, the AFP says the Oplan Bayanihan will expire this December and effective January 2017, a new AFP campaign will begin.
Effective January 1 of 2017, magkakaroon na po tayo ng bagong campaign plan. This campaign plan that will be replacing IPSP Bayanihan is one that is going to be more responsive according to our contemporary requirements sa ating conduct ng operation.
AFP says the new campaign will be bigger after their assessment of the Oplan Bayanihan.
Ang ating 2017 will encapsulate what are the necessary changes and adjustments that we have to do in the next campaign plan based on our assessment as to the efficacy of the IPSP Bayanihan.
President Rodrigo Duterte yesterday commended the AFP for this new counter-insurgency campaign.
I also commend you for implementing a new campaign plan which is attuned with our government long-term vision of peace described in the Ambition Natin 2040 that details the conversion of our security, developmental, and governance strategies.
Brian De Paz, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
Authorities heightened security status in transport terminals ahead of the surge of passengers this long holiday weekend.
Tropical cyclone Nok 10 is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility tonight and will be locally named Tropical Storm Nina. And despite Dole's lifting of the work stoppage order on 108 firecracker establishments, firecracker sales remain low.
Y News will be right back. National Capital Region Police Office has tightened the security around the Araneta bus terminal ahead of the long holiday weekend. Joannano will tell us why.
The Araneta bus terminal is already crowded with passengers waiting for buses to arrive as they take advantage of the long holiday vacation. Thus, personnel of the National Capital Region Police heightened security to ensure the safety of passengers bound for the provinces. Earlier today, NCRPO Chief Oscar Albayalde conducted an inspection at the terminal to check and make sure that cops stationed there are in position and are performing their duties.
Just want to make sure that all our security measures are all in place, yung ating target hardening measures, yung ating police visibility, and of course yung ating police assistance desk are all in place.
Although no threat to security was monitored, the PNP remains on full alert status across the country. Aside from the NCRPO, LTFRB and LTO also conducted an inspection to check if the buses are in good condition and equipped with the necessary permits to travel. Meanwhile, PNP Highway Patrol Group personnel are also deployed to the terminal for the strict implementation of Oplan Isnabero against abusive taxi drivers. Meanwhile, several trips are already fully booked, including routes going to Aklan, Antique, Iloilo, Capiz, Masbate, Northern Samar, and Matnog, Sorsogon. While other passengers are able to catch up their respective trips, others were not able to buy tickets and are just hoping for a chance ride.
Mahirap kumuha talagang ganito, taon-taon ang hirap. Kailangan mas maaga pa nga sana, kailang sa trabaho, tsaka yung iba, kulang pa sa budget.
Kakatapos lang ng school namin eh. Ngayon lang na-vacant ulit. Maglilibot-libot pa rin kahit pa paano.
John Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Travelers bound for the provinces through the Batangas port are assured of a safe holiday trip according to port authorities. Bernard Dadis will tell us why.
The management of Batangas Port is now prepared for the expected influx of about 20,000 passengers traveling to their provinces this long holiday weekend. However, the Philippine Ports Authority Batangas has advised passengers to travel early to avoid inconvenience. PPA is expecting a large volume of passengers at the Batangas port starting tomorrow.
We have sufficient vessel. Ang nagiging problema nga lang natin is kaya medyo nagkakaroon ng parang pagkukulang is that biglang nagkakadagsaan ang dating ng mga pasahero.
Passengers are also advised to reserve tickets early to avoid being stranded at terminals.
Paalala, unang-una sa mga kababayan natin, kumuha na po agad kayo ng reservation sa ating mga barko at iwasan po natin na doon tayo kukuha ng ticket sa pier para hindi po magulo yung ating pilahan.
PPA also reminds passengers to refrain from bringing prohibited items inside the port like bladed weapons and firearms. Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Tropical storm Nak-10 is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility tonight. Pag-asa located the cyclone at 1,320 east of northern Mindanao as of 4 p.m. Packed with maximum sustained winds of 75 kilometers per hour and gustiness of up to 95 kilometers per hour, it moves in west-northwest direction at 23 kph. Nak-10 has no direct effect in the country yet, but Bicol region, Eastern Visayas, Caraga, and Davao will experience light to moderate rains. The northeast monsoon will bring isolated light rains over Cagayan Valley, Cordillera, and Ilocos region. Isolated rain showers and thunderstorms will prevail over Metro Manila and the rest of the country. The center of Nak-10 is expected to hit somewhere in Bicol region by December 25, Saturday, if the direction and speed will not be changed.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council advises travelers to check first with ports and terminal authorities regarding the status of their scheduled trips. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council has advised local government units and NDRRMC member agencies to prepare for the possible landfall of Typhoon Nina in the country tonight or early dawn tomorrow. Likewise, passengers are also reminded to check their trip schedules before proceeding to ports and terminals to avoid being stranded. Based on NDRRMC's report, the typhoon is expected to hit the Bicol region, which would then spill over Samar. It would result in a series of lahar flow from several volcanoes in the Bicol region.
Maaari magkaroon ng mga tinatawag natin debris flow or lahar flow dahil sa mga patuloy na pagulan na mararanasan. Kaya binigyan natin ng babala yung ating mga kababayan na naman nandun sa mga paligid na areas ng bulkan.
The NDRRMC has also started coordinating with the Department of Transportation and Philippine Coast Guard
for the possible cancellation of trips at terminals and ports, especially in the northern seaboard of North Luzon and Central Luzon, which are expected to experience the effect of northeast monsoon. NDRRMC added that seas are rougher this December and that waves will become bigger when Typhoon Nina makes a landfall.
Kung sila ay mayroong mga tickets, no, na baka inasahan natin sila ay uuwi pa nila mga pamilya, makipag-ugnayan na po sila ngayon pa lamang po. Maaari magkaroon ng kanselasyon ng mga pagbabiyahe, lalo na sa Sabado, no, at Linggo.
Residents in low-lying areas are also advised to go to the nearest rehabilitation or evacuation centers in their place. The public is reminded anew to take caution and cooperate with authorities when being evacuated to avoid huge damages due to Typhoon Nina. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Aguinaldo.
Retailers of firecrackers in Bulacan still worry about low sales despite the Department of Labor and Employment's move to lift the work stoppage order. Marge Navarro will tell us why.
The Department of Labor and Employment has already lifted the work stoppage order it imposed on 108 fireworks establishments in Regions 6 and 7. Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III says they have already returned the retailers' licenses after they have successfully complied with the safety standard of the Philippine National Police and the Bureau of Fire Protection, as well as the occupational safety and health standards.
Normal na yung operation. Pero meron pa rin caveat doon sa aking lifting of the wage stoppage order. Pero kasi hindi inspection, bagamat they can comply with the occupational safety standards, meron pa rin mga labor standards na hindi nasusunod. Kaya we also directed them that while we are allowing them to operate again, they should comply with these standards.
However, despite the recent move, the sales of fireworks in Bulacan remain low. In the previous years, customers flock in the area to buy firecrackers, but this year, there are fewer buyers. Some firecracker vendors say the recent explosion at the fireworks factory that left 5 people dead and 30 others injured had a huge impact on them.
Pagpasok lang po ng December, medyo marami na talagang tao na namimili na. Pero yun nga yung etong taon na to, yung pagsabog dun sa Binyang First. Yun ang parang apektado dito. Lahat ng mga fireworks na may mga negosyo na gano'n, talagang apektado kami. Kasi tindera din kami.
Pagka Lunes hanggang Friday, yung paligaw-ligaw, wala, quitties. Wala na kasing gumagawa. Hindi ba pinahinto na nga? Walang masyadong gawa. Kaya medyo, syempre, nauubos yung mga paninda. Hindi sila nakapag-isak ng mga yari.
Meanwhile, authorities have confiscated sacks containing prohibited firecrackers at a firework factory in Barangay Pulong Buhangin, Santa Maria, Saco. The factory's owner, Roberto Blas, has escaped.
Ito po ay isang illegal na pagawaan kung saan nakita natin dito, natuklasan natin ang napakaraming kemikal sa paggawa ng paputok. Ngunit ang mga finished product po na ating nakita doon ay ating kinumpiska at ito naman po si Roberto Blas ay malayo pa lang ang ating sasakyan ay tumakbo na, hindi na po nagpaabot sa atin.
In line with this, PNP continues strict monitoring of manufacturers and retailers of fireworks in the region. Marge Navarro, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
The Philippine National Police Explosive and Ordnance Division reminds the public of the dangers of using powerful firecrackers. Aiko Miguel will tell us why.
Philippine National Police Explosives and Ordnance Division Director Police Senior Superintendent Remigio Gregorio says fireworks with explosive content beyond 0.2 grams or 1/3 teaspoon are considered fatal. Whatever the kind, powerful firecrackers are indeed too dangerous to use. Igniting firecrackers attached to rigid materials like sand, nails, and wood is also unsafe.
Yung mga pira-pirasong kahoy, pako, buhangin, tumama sa iyo, magiging fragmentation yan.
Authorities remind the public that the firecrackers allowed are Judas Belt, Small Triangulo, Skyrocket, Bawang, Baby Rocket, and similar ones with explosive content not exceeding 0.2 grams. Meanwhile, the allowed pyrotechnics include butterfly, fountain, jumbo regular, lucis, Roman candle, mabuhay, sparklers, trompilyo, whistle devices, and other similar illumination. However, Police Superintendent Gregorio reminds the public that the use of powerful firecrackers such as Goodbye Philippines, Aldab, Goodbye Colombia, Cook and Can, and the so-called Triangulo are prohibited, and reiterates a reminder to the public that as much as possible, do not use fireworks to avoid accidents. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Organizers of the Davao City TOROTOT Festival is hoping that it would become a nationwide event in the years to come. Victor Cosare will tell us why.
Government has time and again been issuing appeals to the people to avoid using firecrackers to celebrate the new year. But in Davao City, a firecracker ban has been successfully implemented for 14 years now. And instead of the loud noise caused by firecrackers, Davaoeños come together and celebrate the entry of another year by blowing horns or torotot. They call the celebration TOROTOT Festival and has been practiced since 2013, coinciding with the year-end countdown.
Davao TOROTOT Festival is really in support of the city government's advocacies on zero casualty, no firecrackers, at saka yung no smoking.
For this year, the year-end countdown will not be in Rojas Avenue but instead will be held at the Rizal Park. Before midnight strikes, a parade and a program will be staged to pump up the festivities. Contests will also form part of the occasion like the Most Creative TOROTOT, Most Creative TOROTOT-inspired costume, and many more.
With this TOROTOT Festival also, we're hoping that more people who are tired of all the noise and the pollution that firecrackers causes in their cities, we're hoping that they'd come here and try to experience what it's like to have no firecracker at all but just plain torotots and plain fun in Davao.
The organizers are hoping that the festival will turn into a nationwide event in the coming years, since President Rodrigo Duterte is very much into implementing a nationwide firecracker ban, which he started in Davao City when he was the city mayor then. If it pushes through, the Philippines will have a much greater chance to obtain the Guinness World Record for the simultaneous blowing of horns, to which Japan is the current title holder. Victor Cosare, UNTV News and Rescue, Davao City.
Coming up, the United Nations reports that almost a third of the human trafficking victims worldwide are children.
Militants in the northern city of Aleppo in Syria leave for the Idlib province in the west as part of their deal with government forces. Fans were given a sneak peek to the animated movie world of the Universal Studios in Hollywood.
More from Y News after this break. Over 1,200 residents of a remote barangay in Quezon province are exceedingly grateful to UNTV and MCGI. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
Lack of medical attention is one of the main problems among residents in Sitio Pugawan. The sitio is located in Pagsangahan, which is one of the most remote barangays in Quezon province. Aside from distance, poverty is also a hindrance for the residents to seek medical treatment. That's why the said sitio was chosen by UNTV and Members Church of God International or MCGI to be a venue of their medical mission. Its residents are overjoyed for the good opportunity to have themselves checked for free.
Ako'y nagpapasalamat na ako'y na tingnan ang aking kalusugan at saka salamat sa mga nag-sponsor nito.
Okay naman, nagpapasalamat nga ako. Katulad ko, ako mahirap lang. Wala akong ipagpabalik-balik sa doktor na dito na nagpa-check up na may dumayong katulad ninyo. Maraming salamat nga.
Nagpasalamat po ako sa Diyos dahil po sa kanilang kabutihan sa mahihirap. Nakakatulong po.
Over 1,200 residents received free services such as medical, dental, and optical consultation. Some were also given free medicines and eyeglasses. For this, the officials of the area have expressed gratitude to the sponsors of the public service.
Kaya po ako'y nagpapasalamat po sa mga kapatiran, sa mga doktor, sa mga staff, sa bumubuo po ng UNTV at ng Dating Daan at ang lahat po ng mga barangay officials dito po sa pagsangahan na nakiisa sa atin sa isang matagumpay at pinagpalang medical mission para po sa mga tao dito sa bayan ng San Francisco.
Na pagminsan, dala ng kahirapan, hindi na sila makapagpagamot dahil nga sa kalayuan. Kita naman sa sitwasyon namin, mahirap yung daan. Kaya maraming salamat at nandito kayo. Kami ay natutuwa at ngayon ang daming natutulungan ninyo.
Leslie Lombowen for Serbisyong Kasangbahay.
The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime reports that children make up almost a third of all human trafficking victims worldwide. Marge Navarro will tell us why.
The United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, or UNODC, in its latest global report on trafficking in persons, states that almost a third of all human trafficking victims worldwide is made up of children, adding that women and girls comprise 71% of human trafficking victims.
Trafficking persons is happening everywhere. And actually the victims who are trafficked, they could be anybody. They could be women, they could be children, they could be men, and girls and boys.
The report found that while women and girls tend to be trafficked for marriages and sexual slavery, men and boys are typically exploited for forced labor in the mining sector as porters, soldiers, and slaves. While 28% of detected trafficking victims worldwide are children, in regions such as Sub-Saharan Africa, Central America, and the Caribbean, children comprise 62% and 64% of victims respectively. This year's report includes a thematic chapter focusing on the connections between trafficking in persons, migration, and conflict.
Traffickers, they target those who are fleeing the wars, refugees, and we, for example, saw an increase in the numbers of Syrian victims during the recent years.
The UN Anti-Human Trafficking Chief also notes that armed groups are the main creators of trafficking in persons. Data included in the report revealed that trafficking in persons and regular migration flows broadly resemble each other for some destination countries in different parts of the world. Factors that increase vulnerability to human trafficking during the migration process include the presence of transnational organized crime in the country of origin and the person's socio-economic profile. Marge Navarro, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Security around the Buckingham Palace is heightened in the wake of the Berlin attack, with crowds of tourists flocking to see the changing of guards. Jovic Bermas will tell us why.
London's Metropolitan Police implement road closures around Buckingham Palace on Wednesday as part of heightened security measures following the truck attack in Berlin, where a truck plowed into crowds at a Christmas market, killing 12 people and injuring more than 40 others. Police said the closure around the palace, introduced earlier than planned, was a precautionary measure and not in relation to any specific intelligence about potential threat in London. Traditional changing of the guard ceremony outside Buckingham Palace regularly attracts crowds of tourists.
I feel very confident with all the security guards walking around. Like I said, it makes me more secure, so I'm just going to enjoy my vacation.
The truck attack in Berlin is the latest blow for Europe's tourism industry. Carnage in the French city of Nice in July, when a gunman drove a truck into a crowd celebrating Bastille Day, killing 86 people. Brussels' attack in March and last year's attack in Paris have made some holidaymakers concerned.
It is a crowded area, and I definitely thought about the Berlin thing, and I thought, well, it's probably okay, but I thought, is it okay to come here?
Britain is on its second highest threat level, meaning an attack by militants is considered highly likely. Earlier this month, Britain's foreign intelligence chief said Islamic State militants were using turmoil in Syria to plot attacks against the United Kingdom and her allies. Jovic Bermas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
Militant groups begin evacuating northern Syria. Mabel Razon will tell us why.
Militants in Syria's northern city of Aleppo continue to retreat to Idlib province in the west on Wednesday. Aleppo received the first snow of the winter on Wednesday. Vehicles from the Syrian Red Crescent and the other organizations began evacuations as early as 7 a.m. local time in southwestern Aleppo. The withdrawal process has been slow as the deal made between the government and the opposition militants dictates that pro-government supporters must simultaneously withdraw from the bases of anti-government militants, Al-Fuwa and Keflaya in Idlib. According to authorities, the withdrawal of the militants in Aleppo is at its final stage. Wednesday saw a total of 20 buses carrying militants and their families departing Aleppo for Idlib. In turn, 4 buses and 2 ambulances arrived Aleppo from Idlib. The withdrawal plan was posed multiple times due to incidents in which militants burned down buses and attacked at least one bus driver. A Syrian military official criticized the opposition fighters for breaking the agreement and called upon both sides to honor the deal.
There was agreement just to be fulfilled from either parts, and we fulfilled the part which concerned us. But they broke it, and that's why we have to stop till they finish what they agreed with them. They broke this agreement, and we will not allow that. We should recommend that all the agreement should be fulfilled, 100%.
Since the Syrian government forces took control of Sheikh Zayed on December 13, the anti-government militants had only 4 regions left in their control in eastern Aleppo. The two sides then reached the agreement on evacuation. Sources from the government forces said the withdrawal process is expected to be completed by the end of the year. Mabel Razon, UNTV News and Rescue, Middle East.
Peruvian authorities confiscated and burned on Tuesday 3 tons of illegal fireworks and equipment in the southern city of Arequipa. Some 200 officers participated in the operations after they found 13 stalls in the South Andino market carrying illegal fireworks and equipment. Authorities burned the material in a nearby neighborhood. The city prosecutor says investigation is underway and that suspects could face up to 8 years in prison.
Hollywood's Laika Studios gives fans a sneak peek inside their animated movie world. Nino Armilio tells us why.
Movie fans are being transported to the animated world of Laika Studios once more, with a grand reopening of From Caroline to Kubo, a magical Laika experience at Universal Studios in Hollywood. The unique interactive exhibition is back and offers guests an up-close look at the artistic detail and imagination behind the acclaimed animation studios movies.
You know, millions of people have seen our films. They would love to see what our puppets look like up close and personal, and here they have the opportunity to do it.
Laika, the independent studio behind 2009's Caroline and 2012's Paranorman, both nominated for Oscars, prides itself on creating aesthetically different tales from other animation studios such as Disney, Pixar, and DreamWorks.
Like, they made all of this stuff that's here and they put it into the movie, so I think it's really cool.
There's so many like little intricate details that you don't really think about when you're seeing a movie. You just kind of get immersed in the story and just sort of what's happening. And so seeing the art behind it, I was really fascinated by.
Known in some circles as the hipsters of animation, the Portland, Oregon-based Laika Studios' latest offering, Kubo and the Two Strings, was recently nominated for a Golden Globe. Laika's selling point lies in handmade artistry, creating miniature physical sets and puppets, and using stop-motion animation, where each frame is positioned by hand and captured by camera by hundreds of artists.
It's really cool. Like, I don't think any of the videos you see of this stuff does really any justice to it. Like, seeing it in person is really, really cool.
From Caroline to Kubo, a magical Laika experience will run through the holidays from December 21, 2016 to January 15, 2017. Nino Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Those are the reasons behind the news. December 22, 2016. I'm Angelo Castro III.
Reasons we delivered to you as they unfold. I'm Gerry Alcantara.
And I'm Darlene Basingan, because we need to know.
We will always ask why. Thank you for watching. Why News.